Welcome to the second lecture of the course Artificial Intelligence. So, in the last class, we have discussed the definitions of artificial intelligence, about the four schools of thoughts related to artificial intelligence, like think like a human, acting like a human, thinking rationally, and acting rationally. So, let's continue with our discussion related to the introductory part. So now let us continue with the typical problems which are uh, which AI is supposed to solve. So that AI is supposed to solve can be categorized into two categories. One is called as common tasks and the other one is called as expert tasks. So what is a common task and what is an expert task? A common task is something which any human will do. That is a common task. Any human in the earth will easily do that. Such task is called as a common task. For example, we walk, we laugh, we talk with each other, we understand what each other were speaking. We can walk through a crowd, or we can drive through a crowd. All these are common tasks which any individual will do. What is an expert task? An expert task is something which needs a human expertise to solve that particular task. For example, diagnosing a disease. Not everybody can diagnose a disease and suggest a medicine. An expert knowledge is required. A doctor's knowledge is required. There are different types of doctor. Like there is a doctor specialized in heart. There is a doctor specialized in neural functions. There is a doctor specialized in other bodily or biological aspects, right? So it's not only with medical domain. With every domain, expertise is required. So if you want to if you want to build a building, and if you want to make a plan of it, then probably you may have to consult a engineer or an architect. So he is an expert. He is an expert. Not everybody can do that, right? Or or there are plenty of examples. Or if you have a legal issue, and if you want to take it to the court, and if you want to get it solved, then you have to take the help of an advocate. He is an expert, right? Okay. So like that, so expert tasks are something where a human expertise is required, which cannot be normally done by every human. So these are some examples for common tasks: recognizing people and recognizing objects, communicating using any natural languages like Hindi, Telugu, English, whatever it may be, navigating through obstacles on the streets, other tasks that are routinely done by humans and animals, right? Expert tasks, these are some examples: medical diagnosis, mathematical problem solving. Not everybody can solve a complex mathematical problem. Domain knowledge is required for that. Playing a game like chess is no I mean at a competition level. So still not everybody can play the chess. It's so some knowledge is required for that. Tasks that are performed by skilled specialists. These kind of so whatever the tasks which we want the artificial intelligence to solve can be categorized into two. One is the mundane tasks or the common task, and the other one is expert task. Okay. So here one interesting thing is observed. What is in the sense? See, for a human being, actually these common tasks are very easy for any human being to do. We will just do by ourselves. I mean every human being is naturally trained to do all these common tasks, but not every human being is trained for the expert tasks, right? So from a human perspective, these expert tasks are a bit difficult, and it cannot be solved by everybody. But when you come to computer aspect, or when you come to artificial intelligence aspect, it is reverse. A computer can easily solve a problem which needs expertise knowledge. A computer can easily solve a problem which needs expertise knowledge or a skill in a particular domain. Such problems can be easily tackled and solved by a computer, but it is very difficult for a computer to solve what we call as the common tasks. So this understanding we got with this. Common tasks can be easily mastered by humans, but it is tough for computers. For example, till date we don't have a computer which can talk with us, which can naturally understand our what we speech and respond accordingly. Okay, so yeah, nowadays we are getting some success. So we have Siri in Apple, and we have Google Assistant, Alexa. All these things are coming up, but still it is not up to the level of the human, right? You cannot talk with Alexa like how you are talking with your friend, right? Where expert tasks can be easily mastered by computers, but it is tough for humans. So it means what? So because expertise knowledge, say for example diagnosing a disease, so that knowledge can be, we can get that knowledge from the book, or we can get the knowledge from the expert, and that can be programmed. But really we don't know, we are the common task, whatever we are doing naturally, but really we don't know how we are doing it. Okay, how we recognize face, how we differentiate between people, how we say that this is this human and this is that human, how we naturally walk fastly without colliding with objects, how we identify objects. All these things we are doing naturally, and we are taking it for granted, but internally what is happening inside our brain or mind, we don't know. If we know that, we can program that, right? So that's the point. So if you want to create if you want to create intelligence, if you want to create an intelligent device, then several things are required. First the device should be able to perceive the environment. So humans are the best known intelligent species. So what we do, first we perceive the environment. We have sense organs, we have eyes, ears, skin. All through these we perceive the environment. Okay, so when we talk about artificial intelligence, that is creating a device with intelligence, then that device should have some ability to perceive the environment. So perception, how it can be done? So probably it can be done with a camera. So if you have a camera, then you can capture the image, you can try to perform image recognition, all those things. So this is something like, a camera is something like an eye of a computer. So with the camera and adding some interpretation to the image captured, we can simulate the task of an eye. So this particular field is called as computer vision, right? So after capturing that, then what is required? After capturing the images, we need to reason. Because that's what as a human we do. We perceive the environment, we see the environment, we observe like what is happening in the environment, and then we apply some reasoning, and then the environment may also respond. Depending on the response of the environment, we learn and relearn, right? Say for example, you are riding a bicycle for the first time. Okay, so you have say while riding you have fallen down. So that is a learning. That is something has happened. Okay, so you have fallen down means why you have fallen down. There may be some reason. You may be overspeeding, or some obstacle might have come in between, or your brakes might not be working. Something might have happened. So after falling down, probably you will reason why this has happened, and next time you will try your level best to avoid that. So that process is called as learning. So 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 we should incorporate learning to the device. So when we want to, so here what we are discussing in the sense, if we want to create an intelligent device or intelligent gadget, then what are the features that device should be having? It should be able to perceive the environment. It should be so for perceiving we can use cameras and we can capture the image. So that field of artificial intelligence or computer science is called as computer vision. After capturing those images, we have to apply some reasoning, and then the algorithm or the program or the device should be able to learn. It should be also able to understand natural languages, that is whatever the human speaks. So there should be something to, so there should be an uh, some mechanism to get input of the human voices. Okay, that is you should have an headphone or a headphone, so which can sense the sounds that the environment is creating, and you should be able to interpret it, and you should be able to understand what is the message in that. Okay. And it should have the problem solving ability. Okay. So robotics also comes into picture. Why? Because after knowing all these things, so if you are able to do all these things, if you are able to create a machine which performs all these things, which perceives, which reasons, which learns, which understands the natural language, which can do or solve problems, if you do all these things, then finally the device should make some action. The device should interpret, should interact with the environment. After doing all these things, the intelligent device, finally it should make a decision, and it should act on the environment. So if we want to act, then there should be some sensors, and then there should be some actuators. So there comes robotics. So robotics also comes into picture. Okay. So an intelligent device should have all these things, right? So this is the reason the field of AI is very vast. So computer vision itself is a separate field. Okay. Robotics is a separate branch. Natural language processing, NLP, or speech recognition, again that is a separate field. Machine learning, deep learning, which comes under reasoning or learning, that's a separate field. Okay. Like that we have different fields. All these are actually subfields of artificial intelligence. So when all these fields achieve a decent success, then only we will be able to create a fully functional AI device. Okay. What is the current practical impact of AI? So as of now, we have AI components embedded in electronic devices. For example, copy machines for automatic corrections of operations for copy quality improvement. That is, in the Xerox machine, you can have, there are some sensors which will automatically check the quality of the printout, and depending on the quality, it will adjust the parameters, or it will the so normally that should be done by the human. Depending on the quality of the print made, the human should adjust certain features, but it can be done through AI also. So based on the output it will sense, and based on that it will adjust the, for example, it will adjust the darkness of the ink, how much dark it should be. Okay. Or and other related parameters. AI systems are used for identifying credit card frauds by using CAPTCHA and other things. For advising doctors, yeah, AI is highly successful in medical diagnosis, and for recognizing speech, and in helping planning tasks. Okay. In speech recognition also, we have achieved decent success as of to date. So intelligent tutoring systems. There are many websites there. which will allow a learner to learn at his own pace. So depending on his intelligence, the system will suggest like what's the next chapter the learner should learn, so that he will he will be a good learner. Okay, so it's a personalized tutoring system. So the flow of the course will not be same for every individual. The flow will vary with respect to the type of the individual, with respect to their pace of understanding and 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 other related things. So again, there are four approaches for AI. So these are called as strong AI, weak AI, applied AI, and cognitive AI. So what is strong AI? Strong AI, in the sense, it is the system should truly reason. Then only we can call that as a strong AI. So the reasoning should be, it should truly reason like a human, like how a human reasons, like that it should reason, and also it should provide a good output. So in that case, we can call it a strong AI. Okay. What is a weak AI? A weak AI need not truly reason, but it should simulate like a human. The output, whatever it shows, no, it should be similar to a human output, but it need not really but it need not reason like a human. So such products, or if it follows that pattern, that is called as weak AI. Then we have applied AI. Applied AI can also be called as smart AI, or smart. We have smart devices, right? We have smartphones, smart TV. So some form of intelligence. If some form of intelligence is added to an electronic device, that will uh, that uh, that will enable the device to show some intelligence. The device will act as if it is intelligent. Okay, so such devices are called as applied AI. So actually we have achieved some success in this area of applied AI. And cognitive AI is used to study the human thought patterns. So strong AI, it aims to build machines that can truly reason and solve problems. It should be self-aware. It should be self-aware, and its overall intellectual ability needs to be indistinguishable from a human being. So during 1950s and 1960s, there was excessive optimism. People thought that we can really build a strong AI system, that is a system that can truly reason and solve problems within 2 decades. But later it was realized that it was extremely difficult. It was extremely difficult. So strong AI maintains that suitably programmed machines are capable of cognitive mental states. That is, strong AI believes that if we can program machine which is equal to the cognitive mental states of human, right? So we are nowhere close to this. There is a long way to reach strong AI level. Then comes weak AI. So it is creation of some form of artificial intelligence that cannot truly reason and solve problems. It need not truly reason and solve problems, but it can act as if it were intelligent. Okay. So weak AI holds that suitably programmed machines can simulate human cognition. It can simulate human cognition. So it just act as if it's a human. Okay, but I mean, at the top level, it may look like a human, but internally, if you check its reasoning ability, it may be totally different. Applied AI, it aims to produce commercial smart systems. Example, a security system that is able to recognize the faces, and then it may permit the right person, and it may not allow if the person is not an authorized person. So already we are enjoying a considerable success in this area of applied AI. Cognitive AI. So cognitive AI is a field where computers are used to test the theories about how human mind works. So theories about how we recognize faces and other objects, or or studied here. Okay, so if that is, so cognitive AI in the sense it basically it tries to study the human thought patterns. So that is the main thing here, right? Say for example, today we have face recognition system, but that system may not recognize the face like how we recognize. It may recognize, it may use a different style, but cognitive AI, it don't want to do that. It just want to study like how a human recognize the face, and then they may want to simulate that style of recognition. So what are the limitations of AI? Today's successful AI system operate in a well-defined domain within a narrow specialized knowledge. So we don't have an AI device which will which can learn anything. So we don't have devices like that, right? We have machine learning and deep learning, but they are confined to very specific domain. Okay, so we write separate programs for machine learning to identify cats, to identify dogs, or to identify a set of objects, right? So that program cannot learn arbitrarily anything in the environment. Or we have machine learning program for medical diagnosis, for predicting a particular disease, a heart disease, say. So that program cannot learn anything about other diseases. Of course, about heart disease it will learn. It also learns depending on the input, various inputs. It learns. It evolves over a period of time, but its learning domain is limited. But that's not the case with a human. A human can literally learn anything. So common sense knowledge is needed to function in complex open-ended worlds. But what is common sense? How do we represent common sense that still we have not yet figured out clearly? Such a system also needs to understand unconstrained natural language. So these capabilities are not yet fully present in today's intelligent systems. So, and what can AI systems do? In computer visions, the systems are capable of face recognition. We have achieved a great success in this field. In robotics, we have been able to make vehicles that are mostly autonomous. So we have autonomous cars. So Google is very much successful with its autonomous vehicle. But still we cannot say how much success we have achieved in autonomous vehicle in a traffic area, okay, and where the traffic rules were not followed. Okay, so for example, in India there are many streets where the traffic rules are not followed, or there are no traffic rules at all. So there, if you allow a robot to drive a vehicle, then what will happen? Okay, it need not be a robot, it may be an autonomous vehicle which drives by itself. So will it be able to handle such situations? We are not sure. So in natural language processing, we have systems that are capable of simple machine translations. Not only simple machine translations, today we have achieved considerable success. I think it can solve complex machine translations also, because we have achieved a good amount of success here. You can look into Google Translate. You can go into Google Translate. I think most of you might have tried, and you can convert any language to any other language. You can type in English, you can get in Hindi. You can type in Hindi, you can get in Telugu, and 90% nowadays it is correct. Okay, I remember before 5 years, in 2015 or sometimes at that time also I was handling this course AI. By then the Google Translate it was working very poor. It was it will totally wrongly translate. But now that is not the case. You can take the help of Google Translate to translate literally anything. It makes very few mistakes, right? Today's expert systems can carry out medical diagnosis in a narrow domain, in a specific domain. Okay? And speech understanding systems are capable of recognizing several thousand words continuous speech. Okay? So for speech recognizing and all, we use neural networks. There is a special type of neural network called RNN, recurrent neural networks. And planning and scheduling systems can also be solved by AI. For example, the Hubble telescope, when it should work and when it should stop, or in which direction it should, the telescope should be focused. All these were controlled by an AI based program. The learning systems are capable of doing text categorization into about 1,000 topics. That is, it can, depending on the text, it can categorize like it comes in which area, whether it is in medical domain or engineering domain, or engineering if it is specific, whether it is mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, like that it can categorize the words. Yeah, in games AI has achieved a lot of success. For example, chess, checkers, all these AI can beat the world champions. So that is with respect to games, AI has enjoying success from the beginning itself, because game is also a limited domain. It's not an what you call, it's not an open domain. It's a limited domain, and in 1990s itself, AI has won the then world champion in chess. Okay. So what the AI systems cannot do yet, it cannot understand natural language robustly. That is, it cannot read and understand an article in a newspaper. Probably it can read, but it cannot understand, right? What is the emotions attached with that? That it cannot capture. Lot of work is going on to understand human emotions, but we cannot say that we have achieved success to the level of humans. Okay. It cannot arbitrarily surf the internet. It cannot interpret an arbitrary visual scene. Interpret in the sense, it can interpret and it can detect the objects. As of now, so if you throw an image, it can say that what are the things in the image. Like there is a chair, there is a toy, all these things it may recognize, but probably it may not be able to capture the emotions attached with the scene. It cannot learn a natural language by itself. It cannot construct plans in dynamic real-time domains. It cannot exhibit true autonomy and intelligence. So this is the key. It cannot exhibit true autonomy and intelligence. So this is what people are expecting with respect to AI. So whenever any artificial intelligence movie you watch, so there what is being displayed is true autonomy and intelligence in any science fiction movies. But still we are way back from that. So let's have a brief history of artificial intelligence. So the artificial intelligence has a very long history. For example, Aristotle in 384 to 322 BC, he developed an informal system called syllogistic logic. Okay. So from this only there is a branch of mathematics called logic theory has emerged. So which states that so basically it is a formal deductive reasoning system which cannot be ignored by anybody. So basically it builds on fundamental truths. It establishes some fundamental truths, and based on those fundamental truths it infers further truths. So those fundamental truths are very strong that everybody will accept those truths. Nobody will say that is wrong. Okay. So truths like sun rises in the east, men is mortal, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man. Okay. So there are two statements which we have discussed last class. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, so Socrates is mortal. Something like that. Okay, so the third thing is inferred from the first two, from the first two truths. So logic is basically, it is a reasoning system. So a reasoning system which should be acceptable by everybody. Okay. And early in 17th century, Descartes proposed that bodies of animals are nothing but more complex machines. Yeah, human body is also a complex machine, right? Pascal in 1642 made the first mechanical digital calculating machine. It's a mechanical digital calculating machine. In 19th century, George Boole developed the binary algebra. So he developed binary algebra, that is algebra which works with zeros and ones, which is called as Boolean algebra. After his name is George Boole, so it's called as Boolean algebra. Today we are using Boolean algebra, right? And Charles Babbage and Ada Byron. Charles Babbage is called as the father of computers. He worked on programmable mechanical calculating machines, right? So probably it's considered as the very first computer. Okay, it's a mechanical device. It's not an. There is no question of electronics at that time. I think this is during 17th century, that is 1600, that period. Gottlob Frege, Bertrand Russell, Alfred North Whitehead, and Kurt built on Boole's initial logic concepts to develop mathematical representation of logical problems. That is, they extended the Boolean logic. These scientists, they extended the Boolean logic. Okay. See, this is quite interesting. You see, in 1943, McCullough and Pitts developed a Boolean circuit. They developed a Boolean circuit which is a model of a brain, and they wrote a paper called a logical calculus of ideas immanent in nervous activity, which explained how it is possible for neural networks to compute. So basically here they created the first digital neuron. Okay, so this is the place where neural network starts. This is the place where today we are talking about neural networks, deep learning, all these things. It started way ahead. It started in 1943 itself. So actually they are not computer engineers or anybody. They are neurologists. McCullough and Pitts, they are neurologists. So they were studying the human brains, and they are very much fascinated about human brains. So they were wondering, like, can we create a device which can imitate human brain? So the basic functional unit of a brain is neuron. So they tried to create and device which will work like a neuron, right? It may not fully work like a neuron, but at least they try to capture the essence of the functionality of the neuron. So they proposed, like, what is a neuron, how it should work, all those things they proposed. Even they created a working model of that. Okay, so the concept of neural networks actually emerged from this paper, a logical calculus of ideas immanent in nervous activity. And then Marvin Minsky and Ted Edmonds built the SNARC in 1951. SNARC stands for Stochastic Neural Analog Reinforcement Computer. So it is an extension of the neuron, which was neuron or nephron. One neuron is called as nephron, which was developed by McCullough and Pitts. So this SNARC is a neural network computer that uses 3000 vacuum tubes and a network with 40 neurons. It has 40 neurons. In 1950, so this is the mark of AI. AI starts from here. So the concept of artificial intelligence, it was started from here, or the thought of artificial intelligence started from here. In 1950, Alan Turing wrote an article on computing machinery and intelligence, which articulated a complete vision of AI. So he by then there is no term like AI. There is nothing like artificial intelligence. There is no term like AI. But he provided a vision of how an artificial intelligent device should be and what it is supposed to do. Okay. So actually this paper has created a lot of positive optimism in the scientific community, and they started believing that it would be possible to create a machine with intelligence in a short period of time. So scientists in different walks of life, they started working on that. And in 1956, a famous conference took place in Dartmouth. So this conference, many scientists from different places of the world were attending this conference, and it is in this conference this term artificial intelligence was coined. Okay. And between 1952 and 56, Samuel had developed several programs for playing checkers. Okay. So you can see the concept of AI started only in 1950s, but since then AI is providing good success in this area, playing games. In 1956, Newell and Simon's logic logic theorist, was published. It is considered by many to be the first AI program. It's a program based on logic theorem. In 1961, James Lang, for his as a PhD thesis, he wrote a program called Saint. He wrote a program called Saint. It's a symbolic integration program. It was written in a language called Lisp, and it is used to solve calculus problems. So basically, if you give a calculus problem, it will solve that. So it is also treated as an AI program. In 1963, Thomas Evans program analogy was developed, which could solve an IQ test. So normally these are IQ tests which are used to conduct on a human. So this program is able to solve the questions that were asked in the IQ test. In 1963, Edward and Feldman published Computers and Thought, the first collection of articles about artificial intelligence. That is, they just summarized all the works in AI that were done by different researchers during the past, since 1940s till date. In 1965, Alan Robinson invented a mechanical proof procedure, the resolution method, which allowed programs to work efficiently with formal logic as a representation language. So it is something like proving a theorem. He wrote a program which can prove a theorem, right? And in 1969, SRI Shaki demonstrated combining locomotion, perception, and problem solving. So this is a robot. So they created a robot which performs locomotion. Locomotion is movement of limbs, movement of hands, legs of the robot. Probably it may walk, it may pick up something. Perception, it may view the environment, and it may probably walk without hitting the obstacles, all those things, and it may solve small problems, like when an obstacle comes, it may take a different path. That's the problem solving, right? In 1974, Mycin. So Mycin is basically it's a AI based program for medical diagnosis, demonstrated the power of rule based system for knowledge representation and inference in medical diagnosis and therapy. This was used by few doctors for diagnosing diseases. And in 1980s, Lisp machines were developed and marketed. Around 1985, neural networks returned to popularity. Once again, it got popularity. So after that, but we cannot say that it has not enjoyed the popularity like how now it is enjoying. It's not that popular. It got popularity among scientific community. Scientific community started thinking, that too not everybody. A group of scientists or a very few scientists started believing that neural networks can produce some wonderful result during 1985. Okay, so some scientists were working in this area, but still, as a whole, neural networks was neglected or ignored by many scientists during 90s and also even during 2000s. It is after 2010. It is after the release of the famous paper AlexNet in 2012, neural network again got great boom. In 1988, there was a resurgence of probabilistic and decision theoretical methods. Yeah. So this is, during so actually AI is evolving over a period of time. Initially during 1950s, the scientists and engineers were thinking that we would be able to create an intelligent device, a fully functional intelligent device in 2 decades. But within 10 years they realized that that's not possible. So 1950s and 60s is a period of high optimism. Okay, it's a period of high optimism. I'll call it as HO. So they are highly optimistic that within 20 years we can have a machine which is better than human. Okay? But later they realized that is not possible. And during 1950s and 60s there was huge funding for AI. All government agencies in US were funding. But during 1960s, by seeing the result, everybody stopped funding. So during 1960s to 70s, The scientists realized that we cannot achieve that success in this short period of time. There is a lot to go. So the reason initially why they thought that we can achieve great success, and now what has happened. The reason is the amount of data is very huge, because it is an open environment. We want to create a system which literally learns anything like a human learns. So there is no limited on domain. You are not restricting to any domain. You are not saying that my device should learn only medical domain, or in medical it should learn only heart disease or neural disease or something. We are telling that it should learn anything and everything in the world. So how much data is there? Can you first of all feed all this data into the machine? No, it's not possible. We don't have that powerful computer with that much memory. Do we have processing ability to process that much data and make decisions? No, we don't have. So these are the reasons, these are the core reasons for the failure. They understand that. They realized that we don't have such processing capability to handle this huge data. And also we don't have even mechanism to take input of this data. Okay. So during 60s and 70s, what happened in the sense, a new field of AI emerged, and that is called as expert system. I'll call it as ES. So the scientists thought like we cannot, so it is literally impossible to capture anything and everything in the world. So let us focus on a limited domain. Let us focus on specific domains. Let us focus on medical diagnosis. Let us focus on law or something, some specific domains. Let us focus, and then we will take experts' advice. Let us not try to collect each and every data and then throw some of the data out. Let us not do that. Rather, let us take experts' advice, and based on experts' advice, let us proceed. So because of that, the concept of expert system emerged. So with the expert system, what it says in the sense, say for example, if you want to create a device for medical diagnosis, for heart disease prediction, then you consult the best heart surgeon in the country. Okay, or consult the top 5 best heart surgeon in the country and take their inputs. What are the parameters to be sensed, and how we will detect diseases, all those things, and then you program that. Okay, so this field emerged because of that, expert systems, right? And later during 80s, again machine learning, all these things came up. Machine learning came up, and people were started working back on neural networks. Okay, so in 1980s, actually one successful program was written for machine learning, which was used to detect the human handwritten character recognition for pin code, and it was a commercial system which was used in US Postal Department. And so this period is called as AI Spring, because it is highly optimistic. Okay, this is called as AI Spring, right? AI Spring, whereas this period is called as AI Winter. This period is called as AI Winter. I'll write as AW. This is AI Winter. Okay. Again, this 80s period is called as AI Spring. Again, it spring. It was spring. It was not that optimistic like original 50s 60s optimism, but it has shown some optimism. Okay. But again in 90s, but there were no great development in neural networks, and we don't have powerful computers to process the neural networks, to process whatever the input data requirement of neural networks also. So the field is not well appreciated. Many papers were rejected. Whatever the papers scientists were trying to publish on neural networks, many scientists rejected that. So again, we can say that in 90s it went back to a winter. Okay, but in 2006, actually there was one successful paper written on deep neural networks, that is deep learning. Okay, so that was actually quite made an impact on the scientific community. Later many scientists were started working on neural networks. So as a result of that, in 2012 the famous paper called AlexNet was published. It was after AlexNet that everybody started looking the field of computer vision with a different angle. Okay, so it is this paper which has turned the things around, right? So basically this AlexNet paper was published in a competition where all the great players of the world were participating, like Google, Facebook were participating. But this paper was written by a researcher, and the competition was for image recognition. And this AlexNet, it has produced an error of 16 percentage. Its error rate is 16 percentage. That is, it was able to recognize more than 84 percentage of the images correctly. I think the second winner is Google. Google's error rate is 32 percentage. Okay, so Google is using some other technique. The error rate of Google is 32 percentage. Google is not using deep neural networks by that time for solving image recognition problem. They were using some other techniques, so they failed. Not only Google, Facebook, everybody, all the great giants, they are not using they are not using neural networks because they don't have faith on neural network. They were following some other technology, but everybody, they are way back when compared with AlexNet. So overnight there is a transformation. Then immediately Google changed its image recognition system from its previous technology to deep learning. After that there was a great surge. So now we have a great optimism towards AI. So now currently we are living in the phase of AI spring, right? So what we can see in the sense, AI is actually moving back and forth between spring and winter, right? So AI is not just machine learning and deep learning. There are several techniques which we will be discussing throughout the course. Okay. So in 1990s saw major advances in areas like machine learning, data mining. So it's not only, it's late 1980s itself, right? Intelligent tutoring, case-based reasoning, multi-agent planning and scheduling, uncertain reasoning, NLP, vision, virtual reality, and other topics. Okay. So these are some of the famous AI system. Alvin, autonomous land vehicle in a neural network. So this system drove a car from east coast of USA to west coast, a total of 2850 miles. It's way back. It's during 1990s itself. Okay. Out of these, about 50 miles were driven by a human, and the rest were by the computer. Deep Blue is an AI system developed in 1997. So basically, it is a chess program created by IBM, and it has beaten the then world champion Garry Kasparov. And we have programs for machine translation. Machine translation means translating from one language to another language. There is natural language translation. Autonomous agents in space exploration, robotics, autonomous monitor their surroundings, make decisions, and act to achieve their goals. That is, there are satellites, right? So these satellites probably will be sending satellites to Mars or other planets. So how the movement of those objects were controlled? So they were basically controlled by some AI techniques. So there is a NASA's Mars rovers. So basically it is an intelligent agent that moves over Mars to know the characteristics or the features of Mars. Internet agents to monitor users' tasks, seek needed information, and to learn which information is most useful. So this is something like recommendation system. So today, so in this area also we have achieved a good success. So for example, if you are keep on watching videos related to AI in YouTube, then automatically YouTube will suggest probably you like this video. Or if you are keep on watching movies of a particular style, say you are watching comedy movies, then whatever the recent comedy movie was released, it will automatically pop up into your YouTube channel, not in your YouTube channel, in your YouTube suggestions, right? Okay, so these are agents, these are internet agents which senses our activity and it suggests like probably you can do this, right? Fine, let us stop here. So we'll stop here with this about the introduction to artificial intelligence. Okay. Thank you.